but it just moves me beyond needing to have to play music. It's like, it's just something that like moves your soul, and like, I'm good.
Hello and welcome to the Keyboard Chronicles, a podcast for keyboard players. I'm your host, David Holloway, and I'm thrilled as always to be here. I'm thrilled to welcome you back to part 2 of our interview with Neal Evans. If you've listened to part 1, I'm sure you're pretty excited to jump into part 2. I mean, what a guy and what a career. So in this episode, as I've mentioned in part 1, we'll go more into Soulive work, some incredible tour anecdotes, his work with Jack White, some other sessions, a short Rolling Stones anecdote, and a whole lot more. You're going to love this. So I'll let you jump in and I'll talk to you at the end of the show. I mean, I definitely want to dig into the bass stuff as well, because I think it's a critical part of your amazing playing. Just while we're talking about gear, though, because we're not a huge gear-focused podcast, but let's talk about what your rig is. So it sounds like Trillion, you've got a laptop, you've got a MIDI controller, and that's the core of what you do now?
Oh, yeah. And it's been like that for years. And then like whatever bass rig, I have, even when it goes to the house, I never have them use the cabinets. I just have them take right off the IO. So it's like you just have like that sound to work with. And yeah, and then it's like I have my D6 clav, and then just a Hammond, like that's pretty. And then I like effect, and then there's just some effects pedals I usually have for the clav, which is pretty much like the earthquake devices, like a disaster transport, delay. And like the holy grail is the reverb is just one of the most incredible reverbs. It's like I can pull out a bunch of different stuff, and when you throw the holy grail up there, like it's just. But that's like that's electro harmonics, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the B3 is obviously still a core part of things. So in the US, that's relatively easy to backline. So, but in other areas where you're playing where you can't backline one, what do you tend to use as your sort of organ clone?
Well, I saw you had down here some of like the worst moments on stage.
Oh, yeah, please go for it.
Man, one of them definitely had to be, we got to do a Virgin Records in-store here in Europe, which was a big thing. Like, I don't know if people remember, like, again, another one of those things, right? Like in this city, there was Tower Records, there was Virgin. And for some reason, we got to do this Virgin record. And again, we're not like a pop band or anything, but we had this thing to do Virgin. I don't remember this. So we must have, I think we were kind of on tour, but wherever we were in the city, and we show up, and there was just a Nord on the stage, like on this cat. But so you see, like everyone else's gear was up there, everything they wanted, and then there was just a Nord and a little X stand and a seat. And man, I was heated. I was so heated. I was so heated because I never had to do a gig where I was like had to be prepared to do it or anything like that. I think I was about to walk off, and then I just put on, I don't know, I just put on some sound and figured it out. And and I know after that's killing, that was so killing Neal. And I was just like, dude, man, I want to hear it, man. I think we got by, but that was rough. That was a rough one.
I mean, adjusting to that must be a big thing too. I mean, I'm assuming when you do have a B3, are you using a real Leslie cabinet as well, or
yeah.
So as you know, that compared to a Nord with no Leslie or whatever is a big jump.
It was tough. It was tough. And then I've gotten over a lot of that now. Now I'll just show up. Hey, it's cool. It's cool. I'll get by. But and I play the Hammond Portabee, the Hammond Suzuki, the digital one. And that's what I've had. Like they gave me that years ago, when we cut the Up Here album. They sent that from Japan, and that just changed everything. Like the reverbs on there, there's gain out the gain. So I can overdrive. So just when you're doing like power trio stuff, it just can cut through, and the switch is on the foot pedal for the Leslie. Like my hands are doing this all the time. there's just now it's just like the basic thing. I hope it just had like I just need a Leslie switch
Yeah.
on the foot for a foot pedal. It's just a must, or else it's just a drag for me because like listen, I've done gigs, I can do it, but it just breaks stuff up.
Does.
Reverb is my other key thing. The reverb on the organ. Like I love reverb on the organ, but there's a difference on mine on the digital organ because there's no like me hitting the organ and hearing the tanks smash around or all the reverb. Like you turn it up and there's just tons of noise in it, and then the sound of the organ will drop down. So there's all these little things for like the digital organ. Man, you're just cranking reverb up on this sound that's just perfect.
Yeah.
But I've gotten, yeah, I can get by. And honestly, like now, man, if I showed up and someone just had it, I just don't care now. It's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, so you got it, cool. I'll play whatever.
Yeah, make do with it. Yeah.
You have a clav on a Nort, cool, man. I'll play like at home. Everything I use are plugins.
Yeah. And is there a go-to organ plugin and other plugins you love as far as that goes? Neal?
Yes. Acoustic samples. Like I don't know what these they're doing over there, but this company, it's called the B5 organ V3. So it's
Okay.
B5 V3 by Acoustic Samples. Just go to the site and listen to the samples. And they like there's a video and they're like just switching A being with
Between the real
and the
thing.
organist on here is incredible. That's
Yeah.
another thing. The organist who's playing is amazing. I'll cut stuff and send it. The first time I cut something for Alan and sent it to him, he called me. He's like, yo. He was like, what did you? He's like, what is the organ? It's like three.
Amazing.
It blows away. That's what I'm saying. Like I have organs that this blows away any like recording I've ever done of like any real organ. Like
We'll be linking to that for sure.
yeah. Like all my synths that I use, it's like, and I have like my mini Moog right here, but then it's like, yo, you can open up Arturia and their mini Moog, and I just need to be able to go through sounds and not sit there like patching in a sound on a synth because like everything just kind of goes like creativity.
Yeah.
Al and I kind of talk about this a lot. Like in the end, man, nobody cares like whether you recorded that desk at Abbey Road or your album on the desk at Abbey Road, or if that's a real LA2A on that guitar solo. Nobody cares.
That's right.
Like if I put on The Smile and I'm hearing that album come on, and I'm not thinking. Sure, I'd nerd out and I'm going like, yo, where did The Smile records this album? Where did they record this album? And I'll go and like, oh, cool. And I just like look at pictures like, oh, cool. Okay, they got 2 kits and okay, that's a 22 and that's a 20 on that kick drum, and yeah, that's dampened. That's just for me nerding out so I can to get sound inspiration, but like nobody cares. You hear The Smile and like I'm just blown away, rocked when I hear that stuff. And it's just because of the songs and the production.
That's right. Yeah, no.
If they said they did it on an iPhone, we did it on an iPhone 6, I'd be like, yeah, I believe they did, and I know they could.
Great point. And I mean, Neal, you mentioned, drumming was such a key part of your early years, and I think you've been overly modest about your playing, but I mean, we'll link to it, listeners and viewers too, in our show notes, some of the stuff Neal does live. But I mean, most keyboardists approach left-hand bass melodically, but you've got this incredibly percussive and locked-in feel with your left hand, and also just the interdependence of your 2 hands. Did your drumming sort of set you up in a particular way for that, or just you feel that would have been you anyway?
Drumming definitely did. I think that everyone should get a pair of drumsticks. If you can get a practice pad, you can do it on a pillow, but practice pad's cool because you can you feel it more. That is huge. I'm a drummer first.
Yeah.
Like I also first said for years I'm a drummer deferred. Not anymore because like, right behind me here, cut drums. I come down here and cut drums like daily. I can play drums. Like I feel more comfortable getting on a gig playing drums than like keys sometimes. It's a huge part. I also think there are things that probably a lot of musicians have. And the more and more I get to watch videos, especially what was really great is Rick Beato,
Yeah,
right? Because again, he's someone that's just gotten to put like just so many different types of musicians and these, these long, like kind of like this, like these long form interviews like you're doing, and people get to act, but like he'll sit down and like he's in the room and they'll like talk through playing and
that's
stuff.
right.
And he's sitting there going like, wow, wait, you're not even using your ring finger, like those kind of weird things. You'll find out that so many musicians have just quirks,
Yeah,
have these things, and that they've had to either work around or work with, but that helped them develop what they do. Mine is it's a left hand quirk, and I think that I'm ambidextrous. Actually, I kind of know that I am.
yeah,
Like when I was a kid just playing sports, like my left hand was I was dominant left hand if I was playing basketball, and I'm shooting right. But then there was this one year I was at a basketball camp, and there was a kid there that shot left-handed. And I was just like, wow. I was like, he was schooling everyone. And I ate lunch, and then I came out after lunch, just went to the 3-point line. It was stop, boom, just half court, boom, with my left hand. I was like, my left hand shot was perfect than my right hand that was doing all this kind of stuff. And like, this was just every time doing the same thing. And I realized, I was like, yeah. And I, it's like if you put a pen in my hand and I was writing with my left hand from, or like I would be writing perfectly. I can pick it up and I'll look like a kid writing, but like I can write with that my left hand. It is
yeah,
a it's a quirk, and all I can say it's this weird. It's just it's a dominant hand,
yeah.
and there are just like quirks that I have with my left hand, and I think that just worked to my advantage in the strangest way playing left hand bass.
Absolutely.
I hear keyboardists when they're playing bass and they sound like keyboardists.
Yeah,
Like keyboardists sound like keyboardists playing bass. Most of them use their right hand or they play with two hands. And listen, I've seen some like, they can play a bass line, but it just sounds like a
yeah.
keyboardist. It's weird. Like I sound like a bass player.
Yes.
But I also get to cheat because listen, I know some of the greatest bass players in the world, like Felix Pastorius and Oteil Berbers and all these cats that like are my friends, but I think that actually means something that they'll come out and see me play, and when they're on stage with me, they want me to play bass, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you go solo because like I got that, I'm good. You have a real bass player under you. They get to do their thing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's
Yeah, it's hard to overstate just how unique your style is in that. And I mean, I suppose it even goes back to things like you mentioned Oscar Peterson. I mean, some of those greats, when they were just playing solo instruments, that was what they needed to do. And you're replicating that beautifully. I mean, are some of those sort of greats still influences on you today?
yes, but again, when I was a kid, like I still like they're just awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
And I think like you need that in your life because like I could never ever play any of that. Like there was I never was someone who would sit down and play Herbie Hancock and just um what is it? What is it? The song? Was it Seven Steps to Heaven? Is that what it is? Right?
That rings a bell. Yep.
Yeah. Bum, dum, 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 dum. Is that the name of it? Seven Steps to Heaven? Right?
Not 100% sure myself.
Yeah. But it's like literally I could play the first couple of notes of his solo. It's like dee-do, da-da, da-da. And then from there, is like, I can play, and it's like a C major scale. So it's like, ba-dum, 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 ba-da. And it's like, and it just goes off. And I'm like, I could never do it. Oscar, but what I could do, the feel.
Yeah.
Like when I listen to those and like that's the kind of stuff that the swing, the feel, that'll always resonate with me. It's like I have a list of stuff. You're like, oh, let me your 5 top albums. I put down this list that's longer than that, and you'll be like, whoa, it's really over the place. But it's that type of thing. Like there's like a visceral, there's a feeling, there's something that happens to me when I hear music.
Absolutely.
It's inexplicable, and I'm sure a lot of people feel it, and I know everyone interprets it in a different way. But it just moves me beyond needing to have to play music. It's like, it's just something that like moves your soul and like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to ever play again. like this stuff exists. Like I could listen to that for forever and I'm good. So yeah, I think it's you I don't know. For me, I just kind of needed like there were just all these things that it was like I was never gonna attain that. I'm also very I have a drive in me, so I'm like I want to be good.
Yeah.
Like whatever that ever meant, I don't know what that can be compared to, but I just wanted to be good. And when I try and execute something, I want it to be good. And I think that a dear friend of mine, my man Ben Kenny, incredible multi-instrumentalist. He was the original guitarist of The Roots. He then was the bass player for Incubus. Now he's solo, and everyone check out his solo stuff. He's brilliant. He again, singer, guitarist, drummer, bassist, keys. He does everything. But years ago, I was hanging out at his place, and on his computer monitor, there was a sticker that said "To Me," and I was like, I was just looking at this thing. I was like, what? I was like, what is this to me? He was like, does it sound good to me?
Right.
And like that, when he said that to me that day, it changed a lot. You know, it takes a weight off. I mean, it makes you strive for stuff, but it's like, does this sound good to me? Does this feel good to me? Does like that's in the end, that's what matters. There's that weird selfishness
Yeah.
with music, even though I want people to enjoy whatever comes out, but
No, I think it's a really deep point there. And I think the selfishness and also that it sounds good to you. There's a lot of pressure when you're a core part of a band like Soulive, where you're integral to. I mean, there are the three of you. You're integral to the whole thing, and I'm also really interested. You've done some stuff outside of Soulive, like but essentially been a sideman to someone else, and that Jack White is the obvious one. What was the impetus for you just taking a sidestep there to working with Jack White, which you couldn't get a much more different sort of musical genre, even though he's quite diverse in what he does. What brought that on, and what did you need to learn or even unlearn to be able to do that role effectively?
well, I mean, I was just shocked that like I even got a call. Like I literally got a call, um, from Lalo Medina, um, from Jack White, and the wildest thing was I was talking with Lalo, and we just kept going, and I was like, I was like, where did you get my number? But listen, Jack is one of those people like he's that dude is like, he knows what's going on. Like he found me and was like, dude, like this cat is kind of interesting. I don't know, whatever he thought. I've never asked him like but I'm assuming he must have been like, hey, yeah, this dude seems kind of cool. But the wildest thing was when I was talking to Lalo, I was like, how did you get my number? I asked him, and he goes, it was in my phone. And I'm going like, I was like, what are you talking about? And like Lalo and I had met in the early 2000s in Japan
Wow.
with a band that he used to tour manage. So I mean, talk about it like just the I'm never surprised but always amazed by like the world. Like I don't know if I said that correctly, but it's bizarro how that all came. And listen, I to be a fan, like I was always a fan of like the White Stripes. Like there was just like whenever they put stuff out, I was always like,
Yeah, amazing.
man, and you'd see the videos, you were like, "Tell this stuff is just killing." So when I got a call, literally just to be on the recording, that was it, and I didn't know who else was gonna be on it. And then it was just kind of funny because, and I think what Jack was doing, he did a session in Nashville with like his cats down there. And then he wanted to do something different, just have like a New York session and an LA session. And like musicians that kind of didn't know each other. And so I show up in the recording studio and I walk in and Louis Cato,
Wow.
who is my dear friend, Louis is there playing drums on the session. So I didn't even meet Jack. I think Jack was in the control room, but I walked in and just went into the live room, and all of a sudden you just hear this screaming like Lewis, and I'm like, ah! Like just bugging out, like bugging out. So I think like Jack walked out there like, what in the world is going on? I said what's up to him, met him. Or maybe I met Jack first. It was something, but like, I don't think he knew like that was, gonna go down. And the session just ended up being, it was amazing. Like that, it's like, if you don't know, he just blew my mind. He's an encyclopedia of music.
Yeah.
An encyclopedia of music. And I'm telling you, like, name a tune, boom, he's playing it. I'm talking about cross genres of music, like what he was doing vocally in there, like the takes out on the album was the one take. And we were just all in the control room, like screaming, like as he was cutting takes. Like it blew me away.
He is absolutely brilliant, Neal. And what was the challenge for you going into those sessions? Because people that are unaware of Jack's work, and obviously the White Stripes was a long time ago, his actual solo albums are incredibly diverse. So was there any particular challenges with you in doing those sessions?
No, I think he likes things to happen. I know it. He likes things to happen in the moment. Even at his studio, he has his studio set up, and it was so brilliant. He doesn't like messing around. It's like Alan and myself. Like when we go to a studio, the worst thing when you go to a studio session is like you show up at a studio the day you're recording, and they start pulling out mics out of a mic locker, and then those things when you're like, oh, okay, 2 hours later, okay, the drummer, let's get sounds, and you're like, man, there's nothing worse than that. And his studio is set up so that he can walk in at any point, hit spacebar, and like it's rolling. And he can walk into his live room and cut any instrument.
That's great.
With no one else there. When he told me that, I was like, yeah, and it was a lot of work because it's, I mean, he has his console and, the computer Pro Tool, like, and all the mic. I mean, it's pretty complicated how they have it set up. But to say he can go there, hit spacebar, and he can sit at any instrument at his own studio. But then you hear the music that he produces, and he's like spontaneous. Like the dude just is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Like it's just constant, And I got to see it firsthand. Like he just like writes, he just writes and comes up. He's just so creative. But listen, I've done so many sessions, and even one time I did a session with Michelle and Cello.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember years ago, I was just kind of like, I was like, what am I here for? Like my band Chris Day was on drums, and like Orrin Coleman was coming through, and I think Kenny Garrett came through at one point. Oh, just the cats, all these cats were there. And I'm like, what am I doing here? And she just was like, she's like, Neal, she's like, I just want you to be you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, girl. When you hear that from, like, that's why she had me there. It had nothing to do with anything else. It's like, she's like, I just want you to be you. So when that's what, like, I can only do. I mean, I can do a lot of things. Like, if you want something like cool, like, but when I go in there, like, I'm going to do my thing. And I also think it's just the entire range and scope of music that I've absorbed my whole life. It's not like it's the furthest thing probably from what people would ever expect.
Yeah.
I'm even surprised that like I'm known for playing with instrumental bands when like, sure, I grew up listening to instrumental music like jazz, but that was like my dad's music, and classical music. Like that was in his thing. I grew up listening to like the radio, like all the 80s music, hip hop, or like that, like vocal music. And it's just the strangest thing that I end up, I studied jazz or playing standards, and I'm playing with instrumental bands when it's like the furthest thing from like what I grew up listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's fascinating. You've prompted me to give you a hypothetical question that I hadn't planned on doing until you mentioned Lewis Cato. Has that ever been an itch you'd like to scratch playing in a late show band? Like, is that something, I know the gig is a hard one because it's constant, lots of new songs to learn and stuff like that. But I mean, have you ever talked to Lewis about his role as MD of the late show band? And is that something you've ever thought about doing?
Well, so the reason why Lewis couldn't play on the Jack White gig is because of that gig.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how it worked out that he ended up leading it. Again, Lewis, I don't use this, like, he is a genius.
Yeah.
And anyone knows, everyone who can hear this that knows Lewis knows that. And there's a crazy magic that happens when Lewis and I play together, because it's like everything I'm thinking that I would do on drums, even though I can't play drums like him, like he does it. Or if he's playing bass, there are like few bass players I can play with, because listen, I'm not saying that, I mean, they're insanely amazing, but like, it's like how I'm thinking or what I want to have to happen when someone does that. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Lewis is scary because all I kept hearing was like this trombonist at Berkeley, Lewis. Lewis was at Berkeley School of Music, like on a full scholarship for trombone.
Wow.
And the first gig I see him on, back in the day, we were playing in Massachusetts, and this dude gets on. He showed up. He was playing with Sam Kinninger, because Sam Kinninger, even though he's playing with us, Sam Kinninger had his band, and they opened up. And everyone was like, man, you got to hear this bass. You got to hear Lewis play bass. You got to hear Lewis play bass. And at this show, he's playing drums. And like, I couldn't believe it. So here I'm hearing this dude about trombone and drums. And at that point, I'd never even heard him play bass.
Yeah, wow.
And then Lewis is a gift. He's a gift to the world. Guitar, singing, he's just a gift. And what a beautiful person. I'm telling you, like,
look,
so he's perfect
yeah.
for it. But like, Lewis is, again, when we were on the Jack White session, there was this one piece of music that we did, and Jack was like, hey, do you know how to read music? And I was kind of like, yeah, I could get through it. And literally, I mean, this stuff, like a 4-year-old could have played this piece of music, and I'm there struggling through it. It was literally like a 4-year-old could have played it. And then Lewis was like, I'd hear him come over to the mic, hey man, you all right? Like, I was like, because Lewis and I were cutting this, like the music had already been recorded, Jack singing, and so I was cutting piano and Lewis was on drums, and but I finally got it. That's always a tough one, being put on the spot with stuff like that. But I was like, man, I'm gonna do this, and the song's incredible. But then Lewis comes out and lays an acoustic part on it, and I'm just talking about like classical, like counterpuntal, like kind of stuff. And he has perfect pitch. He's just doing and just quickly writes out the whole thing just perfectly. And I'm sitting there with him as he's doing all the counterpuntal movements, and boy, man, he's special. He is special. So Lewis can do a gig like that. And listen, I'm sure there's people who can't read that have done those gigs, but like he's perfect to do that.
That's
just because, I think there just has to be a level of musicianship on there. Like, again, I'm not sure. I know people that probably can't read music, but they can just hear, they can play everything in every key, and you start playing something they can play. There's genius. Like, I'm not like that. I'd have to be like, okay, what's the songs? And I could do it, but it's just not the same. When you see the level of musicianship of people on that stage, like, they're the type, like, hey, play this song and hear the charts, boom, and everyone's,
yeah. There's always
like,
someone
I'd be up there.
Yeah.
I'd have some little mistakes, I'd get by, but.
I think you raise a good point there, because now you mentioned you're coming up to 50. You don't tend to get nervous when you get on stage. So is it fair to assume that over the years, any sort of imposter syndrome you have, like, I don't deserve to be here or I'm not good enough, that's passed you by, hopefully, that you do feel comfortable in your own skin and you know what you can do and you feel confident to be able to take on most things?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I mean, there were years ago, I mean, I just had one of those moments at this, we did a bass day. It was called Bass Day in New York City. And literally, it was like the greatest bass players. And it was at the Hammerstein Ballroom here in New York City. O'Teal had us be his band at this thing. And you walk in there, and it's like, Victor Wooten's there, and then there's like Dennis Chambers, and like, all these cats, and I remember, like, after I saw like Dennis Chambers play, and this set was just so monstrous. I remember I walked off the stage, I found the back hallway, and I started bawling, like, uncontrollably. And it was strange. I was just back, no one could find me. And then all of a sudden, O'Teal was just kind of in front of me, and like, no one was around, and he just hugged me, and he was like, I know He was just like, I know, man. He was like, I know. And that's all he kept saying to me. And it's like, I don't know if it was just kind of like you just see something sometimes. I was like, man, what am I doing? It wasn't imposter syndrome. It was just like, what am I? There's
Yeah.
just cats out there. But whatever, I've gotten over that because, like I said, like some of them most insane, just musicians of all levels, of all are like my friends, and like we have just have deep respect for each other, and they'll come out to see me, and I'll see them, and you realize it's like, man, I enjoy seeing them play. They must enjoy seeing me do my thing. Yeah, I could care less about that because like when I play, like I give it my all. So it's like, there's nothing that anyone could say to me. Like, I'm not Mozart. You know what I mean? Like, but like,
That's a great point,
put
Neal.
me on stage, I'm going to rock it. Like, I'm going to rock it. Like, that's no.
So there's no one that could walk into a room. Let's say someone walked into a room and you were playing. It sounds like you've gotten to a level in your career that it doesn't matter who it was, you wouldn't be put off, and you just give it your all like you do. And that's an amazing way to
Yeah.
approach it.
Listen, bass. Oh, yeah, I would. Like, I don't care. Like, but it's kind of funny. Like playing key. Like, listen, I mean, I would just do my thing. But I don't know. I just don't. Also, I would never put myself in a position where like someone's like, "Oh, dude, there's some bebop gig." I'm like, dude, you're like,
Yeah.
no. Like, I would like, not that people are like hitting me up to like, "Oh, do this gig or do." I'm just not. I just That's also comes with maturity. Like, I just know what I feel comfortable doing. But bass, however, I'd probably play anything on bass.
Yeah.
If they were like, "Yo, come play bass key." If they were like, "Oh, you got a solo and you're just playing chords and playing bass," oh, I would play any gig,
Love it.
any, like literally any gig.
No, I love it. Now, just being aware of time, Neal, I'm going to jump into the Desert Island Disc. So you mentioned you've thought about these, and it sounds like you might be giving us more than five.
Oh, I'm definitely, because I'm glad I read the email because like I was prepared. And it's strange because if you asked me this tomorrow, I would write down different
Different.
things, knowing that I wrote this down. And this is in no order. Like as I did this, I'm just it's hard for me to do this, right?
Yeah.
And I really admire when people do. Like I'm always blown away when people are like, "Oh, these are my top 5 like musicians or this or painters." Like I'm always just blown away that I'm just always blown away that people are able to do that.
Yeah.
But so here I'm gonna list these down. And this is just how I kind of was writing them out. John Sibelius Symphony Number 5.
Nice.
Uh, the Broadcast out of the UK. Ha Ha Sound, one album, and The Noise Made by People, the second album. So Broadcast. And Trish Keenan, it was unfortunate, like she passed away years ago. But man, what a just amazing singer, songwriter, man. Like, boy, Broadcast. It kind of the score written by John Barry, James Bond, Diamonds Are Forever.
Wow.
Mind blowing. Swedish band Dina Urgon.
Okay. Don't know them. Great.
So it's Dina, second word Orgon. Dina
Brilliant.
Urgon. Brilliant.
Nice.
Album 2. Lewis Cole album 2. I'm telling you, like, this is just like, this is not fair. It's just not fair. That's all I'm going to say. I can't wait to meet Lewis someday, but that's just not fair. That's all I'm going to say about that album.
Yeah.
John Williams, Star Wars.
Yeah.
There were some years in the second, right after this, Miles Davis, Sketches of Spain.
Yeah.
These albums, I had like insomnia for a while back in the Moon Boot Lover days when we lived in upstate New York. And every morning, these albums, or like, be into the wee hours of the morning, and I put them on to try and go to sleep. And like every night I was listening to these albums, the entire thing, both of those albums, every night for probably like a year.
Love it.
Bjork, Vespertine.
Yeah. Great album.
Selma Songs by Bjork. Oscar Peterson, We Get Requests.
Love it.
Modern Jazz Quartet, No Sun in Venice.
Right.
The Police, Zenyatta Mandata.
Yes.
Coolest thing on that album, on cassette, when you listen to Canary in a Coal Mine and it ends, you flip it, it's Man in a Suitcase. You flip it, Canary in a Coal Mine starts. As soon as it ends, you flip it, Man in a Suitcase starts. Like, I don't know how they, and those are my two favorite songs they album. Well, except like the do. But when you flip, like, I was like, they
That's
did
amazing.
that. They did that. Count Basie on the Road. Jimmy Smith Midnight Special.
Great album.
Kool and the Gang's first album, the self-titled Kool and the Gang album. Instrumental album. That's Beach Boys, Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
Quincy Jones, Walking in Space. Michael Jackson, Off the Wall. Phil Collins, Face Value.
A great album.
And James Brown's Sex Machine.
That is amazing. And I've lost count. I think that's about 12. So I'm assuming you'll trust us, Neal. What we'll do is we'll choose 5 or 6, and we quite often get guests choose 6 that haven't been chosen by anyone else before. And there are definitely at least 6 in there that haven't been. And that's amazing. Yeah, thank you. That's one of the reasons we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like so many other, but like when you hear that range, it's like, okay, you get like, you're hearing some of this jazz, and that was like from when I was a kid, those are my dad's albums, and like those things just changed my life. And then it was like my music. And then just like recent stuff, the same thing. I'm telling you, the Lewis Cole album, his album 2, he did that when he was in college. And that was like his, what do you call it? Dissertation. It was like one of those, the night I heard this, I remember it was one of those nights I was like, what am I doing? It was like one of those, like, what am I doing? But then it's just like, it's a yes moment. It's just like, yes, yes, yes. This is why I chose to, I don't know. It's like I came into this world to be chosen to be moved in this way. When you hear things like that, they're just yes moments for me.
And I think,
Like someone like that exists in this world that just makes you question things, like everything.
I can imagine he would love to work with you, Neal. I mean, we've had the pleasure. I've had Paul Cornish from Thumpasaurus and Ray Thistlethwaite, and I mean, they both worked in Noah with Lewis, and yeah, they have similar opinions.
And I heard he's like and I've seen I know other people like Nate Wood, my dear friend Nate Wood. I just know, like, I expect people that are that brilliant are as equally that nice, and that's what I've generally found in this world. Like the greatest musicians are, because they're usually just the most incredible people.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Neal, we're going to move on to the final question, which is what we call the quick fire 10, which is 10 short and sharp questions with 10 short and sharp answers. So due to a serious crime, you're sentenced to 6 months in a tribute band. What tribute are you choosing?
James Brown.
Yeah, wow. What's your most important pre-gig ritual? So before a gig, what do you need to do to feel settled before a show?
Silence.
Yeah, love it. If you hadn't been a musician, what do you think your career choice would have been?
I've thought about I definitely thought about this because I'm like, man, but it was funny. Well, one thing that I was gonna go into is actually become a dentist, but like, okay, don't put that. That's not like but I've always really wish that I would have like apprenticed and become like in like woodworking and like actually like piano building.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, what I mean? So like, if I could have worked for like Steinway and been a piano, like,
that would be amazing.
And I just think, I'm sure there are other things too, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather build a piano than pull out people's teeth, so that's good.
Yeah.
These next two are quite hard, but is there a favorite tour you've ever done?
There's been a lot. I would have to say definitely one of them, Royal Family Tour, when it was Soulive and Lettuce.
Yeah.
Most grueling gigs ever. Kraz and I were on double duty. Yeah. And it got to the point where we said, yo, Soulive is going to open up first. Soulive is hard work.
Yeah.
Like Lettuce is intense, but it's like, man, it's easy because doing what I do, all this, it's hard. Yeah. And we were going out there smashing with Lettuce, and then Soulive was going on.
Yeah, that's hard.
And then we would have to. That was definitely one of them. I mean, there's been so many, like touring with Schofield,
Yeah.
like the shows we've gotten to do with the Rolling Stones. I mean, I mean, there were so many iterations of Soulive, touring with Nigel,
Yeah.
having the different shady horns. I mean, there was so many, having Rashawn out there. There was one time it was Sam, Zoidus, and Rashawn.
Yeah. Wow.
Boy, oh boy.
And I do need to ask, I know it's meant to be a quick fire 10, but just remind me about the Stones, how that came about, because obviously that's something a little bit different too.
It's great to have an amazing agent, I'll tell you that. Really, like, that, yeah, I mean, that was a big part of it, but it was wild that we even got to do one show with the Stones, but we did 5 shows with opening up for the Rolling
Yeah,
Stones.
wow.
And it was crazy. The first one was at the Tower Theater in Philadelphia. And then the sound check, like one by one, I looked up and there's like Daryl on stage, and then, you know, and I'm like, and then it's like all of a sudden you're like, wait, the Rolling Stones are on stage, like all of them. And what I think it was, like we were in we're this organ trio. And I think they were probably like, I think it just took them back to a time when they, like, that's what they grew up, like them coming up. That was, Steve Winwood is around, and like it was just normal that you'd see all these incredible bands in Britain everywhere,
That's right.
like with just organ trios and power trios with an organ player. And yeah, that was really special. It was really special to
Yes.
see like Charlie and
Oh,
everyone,
yeah.
and Mick and Ron and
Yeah.
Daryl on the side of the stage.
Yeah. We can all have
I mean,
fanboy
there's so
moments.
many, like, gosh, I mean, we like Dave Matthews. What a man. Dave is just like, we just got so many opportunities from just these incredible people. Like, again, like Derek Trucks, like
Yeah.
doing like Derek and Susan, some of our
Amazing.
dearest friends that, like, again, you're talking about through the whole connection of all the incredible musicians that we've gotten to be around over the years.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. And so that probably leads into one of the hardest questions in the Quickfire 10, which is a favorite gig you've ever done, a one-off gig that you go, okay, this is actually the highlight, maybe impossible.
I mean, again, there have been so many, and I'm telling you, like, some of them have just been like, being able to play with people like John Scofield, like people like
Yeah,
you just never, ever, like, Al and I just used to listen to his albums, and I get to tell John these stories now. But I mean, for sure, like we've done some shows with Maceo Parker,
yeah, wow.
and I'm again, like when people, if they listen to Sex Machine, if that has not been on the list and that comes out on there, so much of my bass playing comes from that album,
Yeah, yeah,
particularly the album. And then just to hear like Maceo, when you heard that name being called, it was funny. We did some, Al probably remembers where it was, but we did this festival kind of in the middle of nowhere in the Northeast somewhere. Like Maceo was playing with us. And this gig was messed up. Like they had us, like, it was almost like it had like a campground kind of vibes. Like there was no hotels, like literally there were these rooms. I'm usually up early. I couldn't wait to wake up the next day and get out of there. It was literally like a cot in a Maceo. There was no complaining. Like, I'm talking about the highest level of professionalism you could possibly imagine. He was backstage, his German iron that he pulls out and was pressing everything. Just, and like we also were dressed up for that gig because we knew Mason, and he's just like, I mean, I knew how to iron from the time I was a kid, but he's just like showing us little tips and stuff. I mean, like when you see something like that and the level of playing, and talking about one of the funkiest human beings you can ever imagine, but he also comes from bebop and all like this. I mean, yeah, if you want to like really learn about what it takes and just how you should present yourself in this world,
yeah,
like
he's a
that's
pro.
Maceo Parker is the epitome of class. And and then on top of that, like musicianship, showmanship, like, boy,
Yeah,
I mean,
amazing. No, absolutely. And so yeah, it's probably hard to call out a favorite gig. Let's call it. Well, actually, I'm going to change the question a little bit. I'm not sure you're the sort of nerdy person that would track how many gigs you play, but roughly, how many live gigs would you have played with Soulive alone, let alone anything else?
I mean, you're thousands. I mean,
Yeah.
I told you like I couldn't even
No,
like. I
that's
mean, the
fine. Yeah.
early days of Soul Live, like those first couple of years, we were on the road nonstop. And I'm talking about there were gigs. We were doing a residency down here in New York City, so we played that. Then we had to drive all the way. Then we had to drive up north hours to do a college festival, and then drive back to New York City to do another show. I'm talking about, luckily, like we were young, but we were even dead at that time. Like 3 gigs in a day. And I'm not talking about like, I'm talking about like full on, like hour and a half, 2 hour shows. Yeah, so there were,
Lots.
I mean, a favorite gig. New York City gigs were always like to come home to New York City and sell out like Irving Plaza and like just these markers where we would get into these, like playing these next biggest venues, like those were just some of the favorite. It was also just the time, like those early thousands. It was just a whole different thing. Going to Japan for the first time and playing over there for sure. Some of my most favorite gigs of all time playing in Japan. All the gigs in Japan. It's just like I love Japan and the audience and
yeah, no, it's an amazing. It's sort of a second jazz capital of the world, I'd argue. So, yeah, agreed totally.
And then, again, doing the gigs with Jack White was like this whole other level that, like, arenas, just massive. I mean, all of those shows were just so special, like that. Again, hard work.
Yeah.
Like, man, I mean.
Absolutely.
You play on those shows. So, which is like, well, that's what I'm used to. But man, there's been so many.
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
wish I could.
Yeah, no, agreed.
But I'll just put this one. This was definitely one for sure. The Burbridge brothers, Oteil and Kofi, having known them for so long. Like I met them when I was 18 years old back with Moon Boot Lover, and that relationship continued on. That was when they were with Colonel Bruce Hampton, Jimmy Herring. And I mean, my goodness, like, but Kofi passed years ago, but to have recorded, I mean, those are my brothers, but to play on stage with them, and to do shows where it's like you have Kofi, Oteil, Warren Haynes, Derek Trucks, who's like all on the stage with Soulive, and definitely the Bowl Live shows that we did. I mean, because I was once asked like, oh, who have you played with on all those shows? It's kind of astounding all the years we did those shows and all of the different guests that we had played with us. For sure, playing the Brooklyn Bowl, some of the greatest shows for me that I've ever done. Peter Shapiro. I mean, again, it's just family. That's family. And those just special, man, special.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a nice problem to have, trying to work out one great gig. It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, definitely the Bowl Live shows, Brooklyn Bowl, are
definitely
those have to be. Yeah, definitely.
And the last one, Neal, is there a favorite non-musical activity or hobby? So what keeps you sane outside of music?
Working out.
Yeah, great.
Working out. Yeah. Like, I mean, I've always been athletic, like love working out. It quiets my mind. It's a thing I've always had to deal with, but it just quiets everything.
Yeah. Love it.
But nature, like, man, like all I want to, right now, the point in my life, like I just want to be in nature. Like I just want to, like I'm here in Brooklyn and I just like peace, man. I just like, man, like there's just because when there's that, there's just something else that is allowed to happen when whatever that piece is for you. Maybe it is being in a noisy city. Like some people, like that's where they feel like, wow, I feel grounded. For me, I'm just at a different stage,
I think nature's a good way to finish up, Neal, because you're absolutely a force of nature. And just for the sake of our listeners and viewers, I think most people will be aware of Neal's work, but we've not even scratched the surface on Neal's solo career, his film and TV scoring, a lot of the other sessions he's done, and we're nearly 2 hours in, so we are going to wrap it up there. But look, you're a force of nature, Neal. We've got to get you down under. You absolutely deserve a tour around Australia.
Listen, yes, that would be amazing. But if by chance in the near future, if I'm just like, yo, I'm coming through there, I'm gonna hit you up and we're gonna
Please,
hang regardless. Like
please.
seriously.
I'd love to buy you a beer. Love to buy you a beer.
Like so hopefully because that's another point a part of life I want to get to now is I've been so fortunate to have been able to travel the world. Like there was a point I never thought I'd do that. And now I want to go back and really enjoy these places. Like actually go to places and look at the architecture and just eat the food and have no gig to get to.
And there we have it. If you've listened to both parts of that interview with Neal, I'm sure you'll agree, wow, what a career. The guy's not even 50 years old, so you can imagine what he's going to do over the next 20, 30, probably 40 years. Just incredible. And as I mentioned there, we barely scratched the surface, so Neal's done some great film and TV work. He's had some great solo output and, mentioned more sessions than you can imagine. So it's, it feels like a privilege to have spent the time we did with him. So yeah, again, a huge thanks to Neal for his time. It's hugely appreciated and we'll be keeping in touch. And I want to thank you for listening. I mean, as we're now in 2026, it's a thrill to have you here. We've sort of clocked up 6 years now of the show, or five and a bit years. And it's an absolute privilege to bring it to you as regularly as we do. And we can't do it without our gold and silver supporters. So Tammy Catcher from Tammy's Musical Stew, thank you so much, Tammy, as always, for your great support. The lovely Neal Evans from the sunny land of Wales, thank you, sir, for your ongoing support as well. The brilliant team at the musicplayer.com forums, best money you'll ever spend if you want to contribute in the forums, but the forums are free to view. Can't recommend it highly enough, particularly the Keyboard Corner. That's my go-to place to hang out and chat. Just love it. Obviously, aside from our own social media platforms. And then last but definitely not least, Mike and the team at midnightmastering.com. If you need high-quality mixing or mastering done of your own creations, cannot recommend highly enough. Again, thank you for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Do jump on our Facebook page or our Reddit channel. We've been on Reddit a few months. It's not a hugely busy place, but we love hanging out on there as well. We are on Instagram, pretty much all of the socials, and our email address is editor@keyboardchronicles.com. We love hearing about guest suggestions. We've had some amazing people suggested just over the last couple of months, and I'm thrilled to say we've got some really exciting people coming in 2026. We've reached out to some really cool people, and we're hopeful of hooking some of them on for a chat. Not that you can compare to some of the amazing guests we've had over the last 171 or 2 episodes. So again, thank you for listening. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Until then, keep on playing.